This is Note-Taking Guide 2.7. What we're going to do is just write our equations today in a lot of different forms. When we have an equation, it can be written in the form x squared equals the number when we're talking about quadratics. But if we wanted to write our equation in standard form is when we write our equation from highest power to lowest power and we set it equal to 0. So in order to do that from this equation, I would have to subtract 4 over to the other side to get x squared minus 4 equals 0. So that's what I did over here to get to this point. Once I'm to this point, or at either of those points, I can actually solve to find my answers. Other words for my answers are zeros and roots. But I can take that equation, the x squared equals 4, and I can solve it. If I have x squared equals 4, all I have to do is square root both sides of my equation, and I get x equals a positive 2, and I get x equals a negative 2, which is how I can write my solutions. And then if I'm going back to factored form, a form that we haven't really looked at yet, but we'll be using a lot in the future, we're just going to take these values and we're going to put them back in as the opposite. So this positive 2 right here got put in as a minus 2, and this negative 2 got put back in the parentheses as a positive 2. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, so this time, again, if we're going to equation form, we're just going to add that 25 over to the other side. And when I do that, I'm going to get x squared plus 25, x squared equals, sorry, I'm getting pretty excited about that and just making a mistake. I get x squared equals 25 because I added the 25 over to the other side. If I'm going to solve for my equations there, or my answers there, I can do x squared equals 25 and just square root both pieces. So x squared equals 25. We're going to square root both sides. When I do that, I get x equals 5, and I get x equals negative 5. To put those back into parentheses, the x equals 5 would go in as x minus 5, and the x minus 5 goes in as x plus 5. This time I'm already in factored form, so my answers would come out as the opposites. I'm going to have n equals negative 1, because the 1 comes out as opposite, and n equals positive 4. If I want to go back to equation form, really what I'm going to do is take this factored form right here and I'm going to FOIL it out. So n times n is n squared. N times a negative 4 is a negative 4n. 1 times n is 1n. And 1 times a negative 4 is a minus 4. I stacked those so I could add them straight down. I'm going to get n squared minus 3n minus 4, and because I need that in standard form, I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now because this has got two variables in it, I don't want to change the equation form at all. It's going to get really messy with two variables. So really what I'm going to do is just rewrite this over here for my solution for a different form of the equation. All right, last example here. Again, I have my solutions over here, which means I'm going to put them back into my parentheses as the opposites. So because the variable was a, I'm going to do a, and then it will be minus 3i, and then a plus 3i. And then in order to get my equation, I'm going to multiply those back together. So FOIL it, I'll have a times a, which is a squared. A times 3i, which is 3ai, kind of messy, but that's the way it's going to be. And a negative 3i times a would be a negative 3ai. And then a negative 3i times 3i would be a minus 9i squared. These middle terms canceled each other out, so I have a squared, and then I would have minus 9i squared. And then we have to remember about a rule about seeing I squared. Every time I have an I squared, I'm going to replace it with a negative 1. So this becomes negative 1 here to be multiplied by it. And my answer is going to be a squared plus 9, because 9 times the negative 1 is a positive 9. I'm going to set it equal to 0 to have it in standard form. And then if I wanted to put it in equation form, I'm going to take that a squared plus 9 equals 0, and I'm going to subtract that 9 to the other side. So I get a squared equals -9 for my solution to the equation.